Yo!
Dreaming, don't give it up, Lupe. Dreaming, don't give it up, Solo. Dreaming, don't give it up, Nave. Dreaming, don't give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up.
Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG, and I am so happy right now because this is the first video that I've recorded since hitting that major goal of 1,000 subs. I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you so much. And I know I say this on every video, but it's been absolutely amazing making content lately because I just have this drive to see this channel grow and to see this, page get bigger and to be a part of such amazing card game communities. It's been rough ever since I lost my job back in December, but being able to work on content every day for you guys has made things a lot better, and now I can just see my hard work paying off because of you guys liking my content. It's a great feeling. So honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. But take all that sappy stuff aside, we're talking today about the upcoming One Piece OP06 ban list. Now, this will be a ban list that will be affecting both us and Japan, which is amazing. That's awesome. Like, we're finally getting a ban list because America has been dealing with on and off ban lists, while Japan has had basically free reign for 5 sets now. And I think it's about time. There are things that need to be addressed in the game in order to have a healthy game state going forward, and I really think these are going to benefit the game as a whole. Now, of course, there are going to be some people that think the game is perfectly fine as it is, but you got to look objectively here. People aren't having fun with this meta, and I do think things need to change. Now, that's not me saying that, black and yellow need hit because they're the, they've been the most dominant decks in the format. I think that's perfectly fine for them to be the most dominant decks. I don't think any deck, though, should have such a huge presence on any top charting. I think that if one deck or two deck take up like 60 or 70% of the top deck meta, there is a problem. And while that may not be the case in every single tournament, it happens enough that I think people are bored of this current meta. Personally, I am bored of this meta. I'm sick of seeing Enel, I'm sick of seeing Sakazuki, Katakuri. I'm sick of seeing these decks that just constantly do well because they do well into almost every deck. So I hope with this upcoming ban list that they will be making those adjustments to make a much more fun community. And I know people are going to be mad because they may have blinged out their Enel or Sakazuki decks, or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, that is part of the game. You make that choice to bling out a deck, you kind of have to hope that they don't touch it. If they do, that does feel bad. And I can sympathize for a bit, but I want to see a healthier game state. So with all that out of the way, this list here is going to go over cards that I believe should be hit. These are just my opinions, of course. I'm not saying, anything definitive, though I will say that these are just my experiences and stuff I've seen in the community. So keep that in mind. We will go over bans, limits, and restrictions. So let's hop into it right away with the ban list. And first and foremost, I don't think there's any cards that need to be banned. For a while, I said Whitebeard needed to be banned or hit. A lot of red cards need to be banned or hit. But at this point, in all honesty, I think red has been toned down to a point where I still think it is a very good, is one of the better colors. The amount of stuff that other colors have gotten, the amount of support other colors have gotten, has really helped bridge that gap. So right now, I don't think there's really anything that needs to be banned. More so things that just need to be limited and restricted, which will hop into the limited list right here. These are cards that I believe should be limited to just a single copy in their respective decks. And I know what you're thinking. Holy crap, Phil, why is it all yellow? Unfortunately, I think yellow is the most overtuned color in this game, and I think the numbers prove that. Let me just explain though before you start typing in the comments that I just hate the color yellow. I don't. Let me explain here. let's start with Charlotte Linlin right here. This card has been one of the, I think this card has been on this potential ban list in a lot of people's minds for a long time. Ever since set 3 when it was first introduced, this card is absolutely insane. Being able to play a 12k body that allows you to gain a life and rip a life from your opponent, not letting it go to their hand, but having it go to the trash. That's a huge advantage. Then you play a second one, like which a lot of players will do, is they'll play one and then play another and even play a third. Once that happens, it's game over. There's little to no chance you're coming back from a back-to-back Linlin. So I think in order to make this game a bit more fair, especially going into decks like Katakuri and Big Mom, you really should limit this card to just a single copy. If they pull it off once, you just know it is a one and done. They now have a 12k body, and they essentially created a 2 life deficit. I think that is perfectly fine to limit it as 1. So, next up here, we have 7 cost Anel from set 5. This card is kind of my own personal pick. I believe this card is a bit overtuned for what yellow can do with being able to manipulate life. I don't understand why they need a 7 cost rush body with essentially the same ability as its leader. In this case, Anel. Now, this card's ability does get negated if your opponent has a Luffy on board, which not a lot of decks really play Luffy. The only one that actually, God, I'm trying to think actually what decks do play Luffy. Red plays Luffy, which yellow already has a bit of an issue with red to an extent. But beyond that, purple doesn't have a whole lot of Luffy cards. I know I'm missing one. I know I'm forgetting a card. Blue doesn't really play a whole lot of Luffys. Green, I guess green Uda would be a decent pick because you do run the green Luffy 7-drop. But basically a 7-drop that, regardless if you KO it or if you remove it with a skill, all you have to do is trash a card from the top of your life, and then you just get to possibly replenish that. With a multitude of different cards. I think having multiples of this card is absolutely insane. Limiting to 1, I think, is a fair assessment. This is going to be a huge card here. A lot of people, I think, agree that beige is just probably the most annoying card in this game. This card helps win games because surprisingly it always seems to be the last card in your opponent's life, and with that they can usually stop you from going in for the final attack, especially with decks like Anel that you need to swing in 3 times. Even though he has 1 life, you need to swing in 3 times in order to get that final win. If that last card happens to be a beige, then you're stuck. All that momentum is stopped. And the fact that yellow has so many amazing life manipulation cards that allow you to change the position and place cards from your hand into your life, this just at 4 feels too much. Especially with yellow cards being overall just, it's not necessarily about what triggers if you're going to get a trigger, it's what you're going to trigger. Because yellow has so many amazing trigger cards nowadays that most of the yellow deck can be composed entirely of trigger cards. So I think limiting beige down to a single card in the deck means that if you happen to get it into your life, you know that it just was insane luck. And I know insane luck can really suck in a competitive scene, but there's also a chance that if it's a one-of copy, it could be in your opponent's life already. It could be something that they draw at the bottom of their deck. I do think 1, and I do believe that a lot of people would agree that 1 copy is enough in a deck. Next, in the final card in the limited list, we have Onami, a card releasing in set 6. This card, I think, is a little overtuned. The fact that it is a 2-cost 3k body on play, give one of your leader or characters banished during this turn. I don't understand why a color like yellow that primarily deals with life manipulation has a card that gives one of their cards the ability to take away the life of another, take away a life of a player and have it go to the discard pile instead of their hand. I just felt that is a little much on top of of all the crazy things yellow can do already. Especially its trigger ability is also amazing, being able to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. That just seems a little overtuned. I think this card is going to be deadly, especially in yellow-green Yamato. Being able to give Yamato double strike, double banish is just... Yeah, double strike, double banish is so good. I think limiting this card to 1 is perfectly fair. I can just see this card getting absolutely insane in yellow decks going forward. But that is going to be the end of the limited cards. Let's talk about the restricted cards. Now, the restricted cards, I believe we should restrict these cards to their own archetype. I believe these cards are just so generically good that putting them in the already best decks of those colors is just ridiculous and would actually buff up their own archetypes that I imagine they were originally supposed to be support for. That is, we'll start first with Yamato over here. Yamato is a great card you'll see in a lot of Enel decks, basically allowing you to, well, Enel likes to coast at 1 life. Playing a Yamato will allow them to gain 1 more life, going back up to 2, and then being able to KO a card on your opponent's board with a cost equal to or less than the total of you and your opponent's life. So it won't KO a lot of big bodies late game. But with how difficult Enel is already to get down to 1 life, playing a 9-drop body that heals you 1 and possibly KOs something on your opponent's board is a little much for Enel. So I think limiting Yamato to a Land of Wano archetype, specifically any of the Yamato leaders, I think would be completely fair, once again buffing up those archetypes on their own. Next, we have Rebecca, who has been a scourge in Sakazuki decks because of the amazing recursion that she employs. Now, same thing. I think she just needs to be limited to the Dressrosa archetype, and that would buff up the Rebecca leader in a good way, I like to think. It would suck seeing... I think Sakazuki losing Rebecca is a lot worse than Enel losing some of these other cards like Yamato, Beige, and Enel, but I think that it just makes sense. It wouldn't make sense to limit something like Yamato to its own archetype and not Rebecca. I feel like that's a common thing that a lot of people are saying Rebecca should be limited to just a Dressrosa leader, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And finally, we have Gecko Moria, a new card coming out in set 6, which a lot of people are hyping up as the big bad boogeyman of the next set, specifically just this card, because it has such amazing synergy with 4-drop Rebecca. In case people don't know, Gecko Moria being an 8-cost 9k body, so decent stat line, on play, choose it to sorry, I cannot talk right now. Choose up to 1 cost 4 or less and up to 1 cost 2 or less card from your trash, play one of them, and then play the other card rested. So, basically, you just play 2 cards on top of playing Gecko Moria, but then one of those cards, say, could be Rebecca. You play Rebecca, Rebecca then allows you to grab another card from your trash and add it back to your hand, and then you get to play a 3 cost or less from your hand. You could go from a board of no characters to 4 bodies on board. It's absolutely busted. So I do think in this situation, limiting Gecko Moria to a Thriller Bark Pirates leader would make total sense here. Throwing this in Sakazuki would absolutely be busted. As we have seen in the Japan meta, this card is nuts. It absolutely is insane. And this, like I said, the synergy with these two, wow. But that's really it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about my selections for the bans, limited, and restricted list. And finally, I gotta say it again, thank you guys so much for helping me get to 1,000 subs. Now we just gotta go up from here. You know, let's head up to 2,000 subs as the next goal. If you guys want to keep supporting the channel in any way, I do have memberships now. I am testing right now with ads. Like I said, this is all new to me. I've never done a lot of this stuff, so if it's something where the ads become too intrusive, then I will dial those back down for you. As far as I know, I don't think I have any ads currently going on right now, but just let me know if they are becoming an issue. I will adjust it. But if you do want to help support the channel anyway, you could support the channel via memberships for just $1 a month. You do get access to my videos the same day they are uploaded, so you don't have to wait for the couple days that I usually push them out in advance. And any of the higher tiers, you actually can have access to impact what I make on the channel here. If you want to do gameplay videos that we record and then I post up here between you and I, we certainly can do that. If you have ideas for videos that you want to see me do, I can certainly do those as well. There's a lot of really cool things on the channel here. And like I said, since I'm not working, this is pretty much my job, and I am loving every second of it. So once again, thank you guys so much for everything. And until the next video, take care.
Here's how the story goes. We find out by the treasure in the grand line. There's no doubt. The pirate whose eye is on it, he'll sing. I'll be king of the pirates. I'm gonna be king.
His name is Luffy.
That's Monkey D. Luffy.
King of the